Good morning, Dr. Dave. How you doing, my man?
Dr. Joe, long time since we've seen and talked to each other.
Yeah, seems like it. Well, thanks everyone, all of our audience for tuning in to another episode of the Journeys of Not So Ordinary People podcast. I am one of your hosts, Dr. Joe Hamlett, and alongside me is Dr. Dave Peltz. And you know the routine. We talk about a lot of different things. Hopefully, it's topics that you want to hear. So I just want to thank you all for returning. And for those new listeners or viewers, thanks for tuning in if this is your first episode. So, a lot of things have happened this past couple of years. So, it's hard to believe that this is the season ender for season two. So,
Mhm.
um, I'm not going to get into it yet. I'm going to let Dave kind of introduce or get into our topic, but I'm going to do the first part, and that is to introduce the topic, which I say is hard to believe that it's 2 years gone by. So, for this topic or for this podcast, our topic is season two review. So, Dave, I know I've already kind of let some of the cat out of the bag about just been 2 years. So, what are your thoughts and how do you get us started with season two review?
Wow, Joe, this is just absolutely crazy and amazing. I mean, I remember when we were talking about, well, do we want to have a podcast? If so, what does it look like? And then we got all wrapped around our head and we were spending months
Yep.
researching and we're like, you know what, we got to draw a line, just do this. And then we were happy we got like 5 episodes. We're like, yeah, 5 episodes.
Right.
And now this is episode 104, right?
104. Yep.
104. And it's like, holy cow, how did we do that? And it seems like just
Yep.
like a couple months ago was season one, and now we're already season two is done. And it's
Right.
just amazing. So yeah, we've talked about again weekly drops, and we've had another 52 episodes drop, 52 different topics. There's
Yep.
some always going to be some crossover content because everything that we talk about in personal and professional development is, there's always that thread and relationship with the different topics. We also had, as we committed to at the beginning of season two, we were going to start integrating guest speakers, and this year we did have 5 guest speakers. So a little shout out if I'm lucky to do this right. So we started off with Mr. Eric Christ
Wait a
and
minute. We actually had six. If you start
six.
with Dr. Darnell
Oh, that's
Patton,
right, Dr.
yeah,
Darnell. My bad,
absolutely. Yep.
Dr.
So we've actually
Darnell.
had six guest
Darnell
speakers.
Patton. So yeah, so we actually had 6 guest speakers. My apologies. We were going through our list, just making sure we had everything right. So we started off with Dr. Darnell Patton, where we talked
Yep.
about taking ownership.
Yep.
Um, our second guest speaker for the year was Mr. Eric Christ on career transitioning.
Yep.
Our next one was Dr. Marion Perez, where we talked about work ethic.
Yep.
Then we talked with Dr. Aria Jones. We know her quite well, and we discussed her journey.
Yep.
We met with Johanna Odell and talked about best advice, and then we rounded out the year with Amanda Weck on feedback. So
Yep.
we've had 6 guest speakers this year. Um, Coincidentally, well, we'll wait. We won't what is it, spoiler. We won't do any spoiler alerts. So yeah, so we've had 6 guest speakers this year. Um, and 52 different topics. I mean, it's just amazing that we're where we're at. I'm just blown away that we've done it, and yeah, it's just, I'm just flabbergasted and just at a loss for words, which I know is very unusual. Um, yeah, so that's just I'm reflecting on that. I'm just like, this is just so amazing what we were able to do this year, and it's not to brag or anything like. It's just that self-reflection that we talk about on thinking about what you've actually done and accomplished, because we do so many things throughout the year that we just forget about or take for granted, and then we
Right.
start breaking these things down, these bits and pieces and parts, and it's like, wow, it still blows my mind. It still really just blows my mind. And I'm going to pause for a moment because I think I'm going to cry.
No, you're right, Dave. It is very hard to believe that we are going into season three. Like you said, we debated, we talked about, discussed, having a podcast for several months. I mean, we
Hmm.
were, and not just, spending 10 minutes each time we discussed it. We spent hours each time we
Hmm.
got together saying, hey, what does this look like?
Yeah.
Have we done all the research? Do we have all the
Hmm.
proper equipment? Do we have the tools we need? Are we going to be able to get in front of people and talk? So there
Are
was
we
a
are,
lot
are
of,
we handsome and charismatic enough?
well, I was convinced I was. I had to convince Dave. No, but it was, at the very beginning, it was a challenge. And
Yeah.
actually we actually recorded a couple of shows at the very beginning and tossed them
Yeah.
because we just weren't confident enough. We
Hmm.
weren't, felt good enough about what we were trying to accomplish. And like you said, it's really hard to believe that we've had over 100. This makes 104 episodes.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's hard to believe. It is because, again, and he said it too. We drop one every week, so we haven't missed a week. That's the other thing. So we've been consistent about this. We've been passionate about it. We've met on days when not both of us were feeling well, or had other things going on, but we made a commitment to this, that we're going to continue to do it. So, like you said, 52 topics this past year, 52 before that, the year before. And they're all different topics. Like you said, there's a lot of, interconnection, and, can relate back and forth, because that's what this really is. It's just hopefully helping you along with your journey. So yeah, the excitement is there for both of us. 104 episodes. I've been telling people the past couple of weeks. We had number 100 drop, and now we again hit this milestone of finishing up our second year, going
Hmm.
into year three, and like many things, sometimes it's hard to see what that looks like in the future. So now to be living it in this moment, again after 2 years, it's been a great experience. So yeah, I'm like you. I got to pause too, because yeah, it is, again, this those achievements, you don't recognize
Yeah.
the impact they have on you until we really start talking about it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um,
So let's start, going over. I'm not going to necessarily say that we're going to hit on all 52
right,
topics, but we're
right.
gonna we're gonna go over some of them. We've touched upon six already. So, we introduced the new year and the new season, and then we start talking about embracing your differences or your uniqueness.
Yep.
Don't do it alone. Remember where you came from. I mean, those. I mean, that's almost a section in itself when you think about it. Transferable skills, consistency, resilience, company culture, professional development, seeing others. That was actually a pretty good eye opener for me. And we
Absolutely.
were talking
Yep.
about that on offline just before the show.
Yep.
Technology, respect, another piece that we were talking about before the show. Never too late. What is next? We talk about that all the time. What is
Right.
next?
Right.
It's like, what's
Yep.
next? Is it lunch? Is it brunch? Is it dinner or dinner? I don't know. Um, Power choice, self-discipline, direction, in the beginning, which kind of goes back to, or is it, remember where you came from. I mean, that's, it's kind of we kind of do these loops
Right.
as we go
Yep.
forward, and they loop back. So, um, that's, let's see, where's that, in the beginning. So that gets us through June of last year. If we continue on applying what you have, opening the aperture, that was a good one. We really
Yep.
enjoyed doing that one. Maybe I will just run off the whole list. I don't know. I'm feeling it. Entrepreneurial spirit, reinventing the wheel. Are you there yet? Being curious, lasting impressions, managing your career. It's a marathon. That's not one sentence. Those are all different topics. Uh, Building relationship. What's on your plate? Power of thought. Look beyond the trees. That was another one that we had a good time with.
Right. Yep.
So that brings us to the beginning of October. Then we get into our personal board of advisors, winning mindset, another great topic, keeping the dream alive. We discussed how that can be a challenge,
Right.
when you get stuck, or, once you've achieved it, can you still keep it going?
Right. Yep.
Career mapping, holding on to your power, another great one. A lot of
Yep.
times we give it up and we don't even realize it.
Absolutely. Yep.
Staying in control, which relates to that. Uh, Regroup to come back stronger. Sweating the small stuff. We've addressed that a couple different ways. I think
Yeah.
that's what we were doing in the beginning of season one. We were sweating the
Absolutely.
small
Yeah.
stuff, overthinking shit, which was one of our topics in our first season. Believe it or not, I think that was a kind of a test title.
Right.
um, are you comprehending momentum? That was another great topic that we talked about. And then let's see, goals. Of course, our 100th episode. And then staying out of your head. We talk about that a lot offline.
Right.
Embracing our differences and how do you recover? And that brings us to where we are right there, right here today. So, a lot of different topics, but you can sense the interrelationship on the personal side and on the
Right.
professional side, and how we were just unpacking these things every week, and it just the sheer enjoyment out of us being us meeting weekly and being able to share our thoughts and you know trying to testing the waters with a little comedic stand up here and there, just yeah,
Now,
looking our
Dave,
best, whatever.
well, it's funny that you just read off 52 topics.
Woo,
Well, minus the six that you
which you
you
already did.
started
Yeah,
with.
yeah.
Yeah, but again, that's just funny that you were able to get through those, in about a minute, minute and a half, 2 minutes tops. But it's funny because that is hours of
Yeah,
conversations that we've had,
hours
and
of
that
preparation and
right.
discussing
So
offline before
it's
we
just
do it.
funny
Yeah.
that you could run through that list that fast. And
I was an auctioneer in my previous life,
right.
so
But you're right. It took a lot of conversation, a lot of preparation, a lot of really getting out, gathering our thoughts together, and really bouncing ideas off each other, and conversation. So we make light of it that 2 minutes in a year's time frame, but the actuality is that what it was, a lot of hours. And
a
again,
lot of
hopefully
hours.
we were providing people with things that they needed to hear, or things that they may not have considered, or may have helped them in this past year. So again, that's what our purpose is here on the Journeys of Not So Ordinary People podcast, is to, like I said, to share our experiences. So hopefully that you don't have to take that long scenic route that we always
Mhm.
talk about. But Dave's right. A lot of these things we've talked about, we readdress, come back to them, because we've talked about this in the past too, that these are not just one piece nuggets that you take and you set aside, but it's an accumulation of these things. It's continuing to grow upon and to add more tools to your toolbox to continue to grow and develop. And we talked about this before we got on the air, that we had to be willing to have these
Yeah,
conversations, because we can't grow or develop without having
yeah.
sometimes those hard to have conversations, those
Or
critical
uncomfortable
conversations,
conversations.
or
and
uncomfortable.
and
That's
you and
that's
I do this rather frequently with
right.
between us and other colleagues and peers, just those moments of enlightenment.
Yeah.
It's just amazing how much there still really is to learn about each other, even after what, almost 8 years. We're still learning things
Right.
about each other, and different nuances and cultural perspectives, and it's
Absolutely.
absolutely cool to have relationships like that in your life, whether it's personal or professional. And
Right.
I
Yeah.
and I do want to interject one other piece real quick.
Okay.
You said 52 episodes, and for our viewers and listeners, these aren't like 1 or 2 minute. If you're new to the show, these
Right.
aren't one or
Yeah.
2 minute episodes. Our episodes are 20 to 30 minutes. So to put that in perspective, 52 episodes, that's 26 hours of content that you can
Right.
listen to for free at your leisure.
Yep.
And it's just we're here to share our knowledge and wisdom and experience, or lack thereof, in
Well.
some
So
cases.
was that just the 1 year? That
This
that
is
was
just
just
one
that was just
year.
season two,
So we
because
have 52
remember,
hours of
prior
content
to
out
that,
total. Yep. So that's another,
exactly.
yeah.
There's we had the first season, so that's why I say this has been an amazing journey so far. I mean, we don't see any ending at any time soon. But again, to be where we are today, I'm ecstatic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like, yeah, like they said, both of us have had to pause, because it again, we would have never imagined that we'd be talking about
Mhm.
season three.
Yeah.
Or it's funny. I've heard a lot of um, comments about podcasters, how many episodes they typically have, and I can't remember the numbers, but I was really amazed that a lot of podcasts, you know, end at about 20 sometimes. That's as far as they get. And it's a very small number that make it to 100.
Mm,
So, even though there's tons of podcasts out there, we still fall into a tier that's not occupied by many,
mm,
because again, not many podcasters last to 100 episodes, and
yeah,
for us to say we've got over 100 episodes, that still just blows my mind that
yeah,
we've been able to maintain, enjoy. We talked about a lot of different things, and offline. And one of the things that we keep coming back to is the fact that we want to continue to do this podcast. So again, I don't know if we can express it enough
yeah,
how great this feel again to
yeah.
be reaching this milestone of starting season 3 next week. So
And to that, it's just we want to make sure that our viewers and listeners are really aware of how grateful and humble and appreciative we are that we have so many viewers and listeners of our content. And granted, maybe we're not in the hundreds of millions like some people, but we always get at least 0 views per week. So I mean, that's always a good thing, right? But I mean, we appreciate everyone. We appreciate
right,
the feedback, and we've had several suggestions, and some of them incorporated, and some we haven't. And
yep,
and it I guess it makes us feel gratified and justified knowing that people are listening to us.
right,
That it's not what we're sharing is not falling. It's not being ignored,
right,
and that's a good thing. I mean, it's a wonderful thing to be able to do to help others without any expectations, and that's what we
right.
do. Or
Yeah, yeah,
we've
yeah,
said it so many times that if we would have
right,
started this 6 years ago instead of just a couple of years ago, I mean, how many more episodes will we have? They probably
right.
would have been a lot pretty boring because in the beginning, but I mean, just to think that we're at 2 years, that's 104 episodes, 52 hours of content. I mean, it's just I'm still trying to wrap my brain around that.
Right. No, no. Again, you said it. We didn't go into this trying to be the top podcast
No.
out there. Again, we went into it with the intentions that if we can help one person throughout 104 episodes, then we've succeeded.
Yeah.
We view that as a total win.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
our intentions were never to again gain sponsors and all that. Be nice, but that was not our intention. Again, we want to do this because we enjoy doing it, and again, hopefully, it's helping someone else along their journey. Because me and Dave say it all the time. We're still on our journey. So
Absolutely.
the more conversations we can have about our journey, the more prepared we are, the better off we are as well.
Mhm.
So we're doing this for ourselves as much as we're doing it for everybody else out there. So
we,
yeah,
we, we talk about mentoring and networking, and that's really what this is about. We're trying to provide an opportunity for people that may or may not have access or just want a different perspective or different view,
right,
or look
yep,
at things through a different lens. And we try to do that, and I think we've been pretty successful at that, especially since we've started introducing more outside guest speakers. I
right,
mean,
right,
that's been a huge draw from our viewership, and we're absolutely dedicated to kick off the new year with even more guest speakers.
right,
And
absolutely.
we're going to make some other subtle or not so subtle changes next year. We're talking about having a new look. I mean, I'm talking about growing my hair out, down to my shoulders, and maybe a man bun. I don't know. Try something like that on.
Well, that might be a different podcast because I
Yeah.
don't know that I sit across the screen with Dave with a man bun. So
That would be a
yeah.
cool trick to pull off.
But yeah, I don't know how many times we could say it, but it has been a joy, a pleasure,
Yeah.
to reach this milestone. Like I say, we kind of joked about it, but now even during this conversation we're having right now, it just continues to filter through my mind. Wow, wow, wow! That that again we've reached 2 years, completion of 2 years, and going into season 3,
Yeah. I'm
and to
looking at
have
a title, Keeping the Dream Alive, and
right.
that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Triple digits on podcasts, and so I would have never imagined. Didn't know what it looked like when we were having this conversation back, you know, almost 3 years ago, um, talking about this. So, yeah, I feel great. I like I say, I would have never imagined being here in front of you on a podcast, just all these things. Just like I say, it's surreal. It's
Yeah.
just been a great experience. So
So let's kind of look at things from a little bit different perspective. So out of the 52 topics we've had this last year, what are a couple that stand out to you? Let's kind of, and then you can ask the same of me, and we'll kind of, I mean, I have so many favorites in here, but what are a couple that kind of stand out to you this year?
so you mentioned it a couple of times. I mean, when you're going through the list, but one that really stands out is keeping the dream alive.
Mm,
I mean, it is really about um, still being focused enough to be excited about the dream and
yeah.
what's next and what the future looks like. Those are all those things that go back to the keeping an open mind to the possibilities. And I don't know if we did that this past year. I'm kind of scrolling through the list, but
Mhm.
um, looking beyond the trees.
Yeah.
I thought that was a good one. Again, just seeing things that may not necessarily see in front of us, but we can hopefully project, and it kind of falls into that dream category too of what does that really look like. I mean, because again, you don't see it in front of you, so you have to kind of imagine, you have to kind of dream of what it could be.
Yeah,
um
I like what you said about keeping the dream alive because, we're humans. We've gotten rid of all of our robotic parts and cybernetics. That's the geek in me coming out. Um, but we're human. We've had our bad days. We've struggled, like you mentioned.
right.
We've not been maybe 100%. We've been a little under the weather or a lot under the
Yep.
weather, and we've kept pushing. And that's what you got to think about. How do you keep that dream alive? And that to me kind of falls into that momentum thing. Even when you don't feel up to it 100%. I'm not saying that if you're laid up in the hospital, you got to go to work. I'm saying that if you're not feeling well, but you can still push through it, you know, how do you do
Right.
that? How do
Right.
you get that energy back, to keep pushing forward? And so, yeah, like what
uh,
you're saying there.
well, I was just looking at another topic, being curious.
Mm,
I mean, I think it still relates to that dream, that
mm,
wondering what's out there, figuring out, what it could be. I just anything that really thinks future centric is always appealing to me because right now it may not exist. It's in that current state, but how do we get it to the next thing? How do we
right.
imagine what it could be or what it's going to be? And I think that's, I'm looking at the next topic. Are you there yet? Because
Oh yeah,
again, it's still just, places an emphasis on the future,
yeah. And what does
the
there look like, and where
right.
is there?
Exactly. So that's why I think it excites me, even thinking about season three. Where's season three going to take us? Like you said, we're going to have more guests. We're going to have a different, look. We're going to have, we're looking at potentially how things are going to improve, how
Hmm.
things are going to be better. I mean,
Yeah,
and we've said this on many previous episodes. When we first started out, the first 5 to 10 episodes were definitely different than what they are today. So,
yeah, yeah,
and again, not imagining what that would look like. So that's why I guess all those topics that we talk about, especially those topics that are future centric, that
hmm,
to have us challenged today and try and figure out what tomorrow is going to look like. I think those are my most popular topics. So I'll let you kind of go through your list. I know
yeah.
I kind of hogged up some of the
No,
time, but
it's all good. It's all good. I'm thinking about, I'm looking at don't do it alone, and we talk about
yep, yep,
networking and not doing it alone, and I mean that kind of ties into the relationship building or building relationships, and
yep,
how do you keep that momentum going. We've learned throughout this last year especially that there are some things that you, as much as we want to do them alone, you just can't. It's
right,
literally physically impossible to do everything all the time.
yep,
We're just not made that way, and then that's okay, and that's where you learn to find out those who you can depend upon and trust. And you learn about other people's expertise, and again, that being curious piece, you know learning other people, learning more about yourself. What are your strengths, what are the areas of opportunities? We were talking about this offline. We're still learning every day. We're learning
right,
things like that.
yep,
um, Sweating the small stuff. that's another one for me. It's like sometimes it matters and sometimes it doesn't. And we're encountering that right now with some of our other projects. It's like, what do we need to think about and what do we need to think less about? It's
Right.
so and then let me see what's another one. Embracing the differences. I love that one. I still think that's one of my favorites because that gets along the line with respect and really just
Right.
appreciating and understanding other people,
Yep.
and as much as you and I talk, there's still tons that we have to learn about each other, and
Right.
that I think is a beautiful thing because it as intentional as we are about, talking offline and having the show and keeping it going, again, we're curious.
Right.
What is there more about Joe that I don't know? What's there more about Dave that you don't know? How we work together, what works, what doesn't work. And I think that's what intrigues me about our conversations is that the more that we talk about these different topics and then take these moments of critical self-reflection and even group reflection in this case with you and I, we're still learning things as the show at each show we learn things. We do
Right.
a post-mortem discussion, what worked well, what didn't, what should I have said, what should I not have said, and that's a cool thing because that's progress.
So I'm just looking at one that's standing out to me right now. Applying what you have.
Oh yeah.
When we think in terms again of what you bring to the table, the experiences you've had, the background you've had, and being able to apply those to current situations, future situations, I think that's very powerful because oftentimes that's hard to articulate to other people. So you know really diving deep and understanding those things you bring to the table. And I know one of the episodes we talked about is taking a look at the tools in your toolbox.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it was this past season. It could have been prior to that, but that all applies here. Applying what you have, because again, I said it earlier. A lot of times we think that we gain this nugget or this piece, and then that's it. But the reality is we can keep combining it. We keep accumulating it. We keep piling it on, and so that's why it's all about a life's work,
Mm-hmm.
not just the last 2 or 3 years, but
Mm-hmm.
all those experiences, all those
Everything
things
that's
you
led up to where we are in this very
absolutely,
moment.
all those things matter. And I think a lot of times we don't do a good job of understanding what that really looks like and how
Mm-hmm.
it applies to what we're doing today, what we're doing tomorrow. And so I think that one is very powerful. Just again, remembering everything you have, it could potentially help you in your current situation or future situations. So I just wanted to highlight that one there. I thought
Yeah,
that
and
was
that
pretty
reminds me of
good.
the regroup to come back stronger. I know we're getting close on time, but
Yeah.
we're going to make mistakes. We're going to slip up every now and then.
Right.
And how do you regroup? Who do you
Yep.
talk to? Who do you confide in to figure out, where your misstep was and how do you overcome that, without staying down? How do you stand back up and come back stronger as a person,
Right.
as a professional, on the person, on the personal relationship side as well. It's like, what do you do to stand back up and come back stronger and regroup? Who's your support network to do that? And I'm just so grateful for all the shows that we've had, for all of the guest speakers we've had this past year. It's been very eye opening for me
Right.
this year.
Yep.
So
Well, Dave, you mentioned it earlier that we are getting close to time, and because we could continue to talk about or recap all of these episodes we've had just in this past year. Again, that's not even touching back on the first season.
yeah.
So, do you have any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Um, I just I'm just so happy that we're still doing this, Joe, and that we have, the viewers and listeners and audience that we do, and I'm just excited for what's next. The next episode, the first drop of season three. You put a lot of effort into it. There's a lot of creativity. Well, put things in perspective, but I mean,
Right.
I'm just looking forward to the new look, the new feel, the new guest speakers that we're having coming on the show this year. I'm just really excited about what this new season has got in store for everyone.
Yeah, Dave, I couldn't have said it better. Just the excitement completing two full seasons, and again to be, over 100 episodes, and to think about the future, what it looks like you say, the, changes to the upcoming season, more guests, just all the everything that we've learned from the previous two seasons, just everything. Like I said, I'm grateful to everyone who's participated as guest speakers, for everyone who's listened or viewed our podcast. Again, thanks for everything you've contributed to this success. And like I said, we believe we have success if one person has benefited from 104 episodes. So to us, we're successful. So that's our mark. That's our line that we've already achieved it. So anything beyond that is just gravy on top of the mashed potatoes.
Right, right.
So with that, because again, I could go on and on about again the excitement we have for finishing season two. So with that, again, we want to thank you all for tuning in. Hopefully, we'll see you next season and have another fun season. And then again, 10 years from now, we'll be at season 10. So thanks for all of your participation, all of your listening, viewing, encouraging others to partake in our podcast. So with that, I want you to continue being your not so ordinary you.